everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, your guide to all things geeky, and I am coming to you the day after San Diego Comic-Con finally wrapped up, and I think I speak on behalf of all geeky YouTubers out there when I say, thank God it's finally over. Yeah, San Diego Comic-Con is one of the toughest times of the year for everybody out there who talks about geeky stuff on the internet, because you can't leave the apartment, you can't go outside. You gotta stay sitting there watching your computer all day long because you don't know what big piece of news is going to pop up. Although I gotta say, this year wasn't quite as big as the past couple of years, but that seems to be the trend with San Diego Comic-Con. Comic-Con used to be that one time of the year when you got all the information all at once. But over the past couple of years, it's almost like all these companies are slowly beginning to realize, oh yeah, we have access to the internet now. We can just drop a trailer whenever we feel like it. Jimmy Kimmel will always have us on his show to premiere our next big trailer. By the way, how did Jimmy Kimmel become the guy that all the big trailers go to? That just seems weird to me. Anywho, yeah, so this year there wasn't nearly as much to talk about as there was last year. Last year I had to make videos every single day. This year I was like, alright, there's gonna be one trailer I gotta talk specifically about, and that trailer never really came. Don't get me wrong, there were some cool ass trailers, but they kind of fit into big lumps with other pieces of information. I was like, well, I can just save that for when I talk about everything all at once. There was no like giant massive moment which I was like, I gotta get on the internet right now and talk about this. Yeah, Comic-Con is slowly starting to die down, so that's a good way for me to start these videos off. Anyway, what I am going to do is I am going to now make 3 videos. Today we are going to talk about all the DC Extended Universe information, everything that has to do with their films that was announced during that big press junket. Then next I am going to make a video talking about all the information about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then finally on Wednesday for our weekly episode of Comic Class, I'm going to talk about all the comic book information that got announced. And that's the weirdest thing. Comic-Con stopped being about comic books a long time ago. This is the first Comic-Con in a long time where I can actually point to it and be like, oh shoot, there's actually some good comic book information that came out this year. Yeah, normally the comic book companies are like, dude, Comic-Con ain't for us, it's for all the big movies out there. But this year, all the big movies were even just about comic books. Like, there weren't even that many trailers that had to do with non-comic book movies announced at Comic-Con this year. In fact, I'll go ahead and just let you guys know, the only 2 trailers that were shown off that didn't have anything to do with comic books that I was really excited about was Ready Player One, Iron Giant's in it, yeah! And the Season 2 of Stranger Things. There's a big spider monster, yeah! There you go. That's my reactions to Ready Player One and Stranger Things Seasons 2. Now, I don't have to make those videos. Alright. So let's go ahead and get into all the information that came out about the DC films, and let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know I have a very, very bitter and jaded relationship with the DC films. I have not been a fan of any of them except for Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was great. We all love Wonder Woman. Let's follow in 3 really, really bad films. Not just average, not just okay, just awful films. I'm gonna give everybody a second to comment down below about how you hate my opinions on that and you think I'm completely wrong and I don't understand these films. That's nice. Go for it. Sure. So yeah, when it comes to the DC Extended Universe, I'm not really that excited for anything coming from it. I mean, Justice League is their next film. Justice League is being made by the same people that made Batman vs. Superman and Man of Steel. As I said, I think those 2 films are terrible. So I have not really been looking forward to the upcoming Justice League film. However, Wonder Woman did prove it's possible to make a good film set in this universe. And it is also very clear that the higher-ups in the DC Extended Universe, they are coming in and saying, guys, we've been screwing up. We need to make some changes. We need to fix all the mistakes of these past films. So, their job at Comic-Con this year was to prove to us that it is possible for them to do that. But they also just needed to come in here and provide some freaking stability. They needed to come in here and go, this is what our universe is. With Marvel, they come out and they go, this is the entire timeline of every single one of these movies that we're going to make. If we're going to add another film, we will immediately tell you where it fits in and how it shifts all the other films that we have planned. We're going to have this schedule down, and if we have to make changes, then we are going to immediately have a new schedule fit and ready to go. But with DC, they announce a brand new film every single month, and they never come in here and tell you where it's going to fit in, how it's going to connect to the other movies, when it's going to actually be made. They just throw it out there. It's like, oh, you guys like Lobo? We're going to make a Lobo movie. You guys like Deadshot in that last movie? We're going to make a Deadshot movie. You like Harley Quinn and you like Batgirl? Well, guess what? Before the Batgirl movie even comes out, we are going to now make a Batgirl and Harley Quinn team-up movie called Gotham City Sirens. And oh, you guys are excited about The Rock being Black Adam? Before Shazam even comes out, we're going to make the Black Adam movie. Stop it. Just freaking stop it. You came out here 2 years ago and gave us a schedule, and you haven't done anything since then to make me think that you actually plan on following that schedule. Well, that is the first thing that I have to say. They actually came in here and gave us not a schedule. We still don't know when most of these films are going to come out, but they finally came out here and gave us the actual list of films that they're working on. No more of this just coming in here like, oh, you guys like that movie? Well, guess what? We're going to make a movie about that side character in this movie. No, stop it. Stop it. They're now coming in here and saying, these are the actual films we're going to make. And it's about 2/3 of the ones that they've announced. And I'm so glad to see that, because I had so many people asking me every single month when they announce a brand new movie to come in here and talk about that announced movie. And I was like, guys, almost none of these are actually getting made. And when I saw that list, I was like, yeah, almost none of those were actually getting made. If you'll notice, no Nightwing movie on that list, no Justice League Dark, no Gotham City Sirens. They don't even have Man of Steel 2 announced. These films that they came out in here and announced are very similar to that original selection of films that they came in here and announced. They just kind of removed Cyborg, which, yeah, that's sad. I mean, when they came out here and announced Cyborg 2 years ago, I was a little bit weirded out by it, simply because I was like, oh, Cyborg, yeah, he's part of the Justice League, but who's the villain in that film going to be? He's never had his own comic up to that point that lasted long enough to really establish a collection of villains for him. So it just kind of seems odd to go ahead and announce that. Like, it seems like you want to work on him a bit more in the comics before you actually give him a film. And they decided rather than working on him in the comics, they would just not give him a film. But Green Lantern Corps is official. It's not going to just be Green Lantern, it is going to be Green Lantern Corps. And we are going to still get that Shazam movie. Good for you guys, that's actually happening. And the Batgirl film by Joss Whedon, that is official. So that one, I said, hey man, that one probably isn't going to happen. It's been confirmed, that one is happening. So that's the one out of all those films I was pointing to saying they're not happening that actually slipped through. So okay, way to go. Way to go, DC. You stuck by one of those movies you said you were gonna make. But yes, the official list of movies that they showed off was Shazam, Wonder Woman 2, Suicide Squad 2, The Batman, Batgirl, Green Lantern Corps, and Flashpoint. Okay, I applauded DC for finally coming in here and giving us an actual list of movies that we could point to and go, those are the ones that are getting made. So that's a positive I'm starting off with. Now to go into our first negative. The Flash film has been plagued by many delays, mostly because they could not find a director. They kept getting directors attached, and then those directors would drop off, which implied that there was a lot of studio tampering behind doors that was upsetting the directors, or maybe DC just didn't know what they wanted the film to be, so they kept changing it and kept firing the director to bring on someone else when they had a brand new idea. But they now have something set in stone. The Flash film, the very first Flash film, is going to be Flashpoint. Okay, a couple things about that. First one, I have been saying for the longest time, they just need to do what Marvel is doing and merge their TV universe with their cinematic universe. And I had all these people defending the idea of keeping them separate because they were like, well, you know, that way they can have their TV universe and it can do its own things and it doesn't have to worry about what's happening in the movies. And I understand that. It gives more freedom to both universes. I totally understand that. However, When I saw that first Justice League trailer, and I saw that moment where the Flash was visiting his dad in prison, I had that moment of realization when I said, oh, that's the big problem with having your TV universe and your movie universe separate. When you have a character who is in both those universes, I'm basically just going to have to sit here and go through their exact same story twice. You know how everybody kept saying when Marvel gets Spider-Man, they better not do Uncle Ben again. We've seen the origin story too many times. That was true. They shouldn't have done that. And they didn't do that. Having the Flash in the movies and on TV and giving us his exact same story beats in both of them is almost like if Marvel came in here and did the Uncle Ben origin story at the exact same time that Sony was doing their own private Spider-Man movie and also doing the Uncle Ben origin story in that as well. Guys, I have sat here and watched the Flash's story for the past 3 years. I don't want to see a Flash film where I have to sit through it and watch it again. However, it doesn't seem like they're going to be doing that. They're going to be doing his origin in the Justice League film, so alright, I guess it's a little bit different. So, you know, that leaves the Flash film to actually be something different. It's going to be Flashpoint, which is exactly what the last season of the Flash TV show was all about. So again, even if you're not doing the origin story, the Flash film is just going to be the thing that I just watched over on the Flash TV show. But, even worse than that, even dumber than that, the very first Flash movie is going to be Flashpoint. For anybody who doesn't know the comics and anybody who hasn't been watching the TV show, Flashpoint was the story where Barry reflected back on his life and decided, you know what, I could have saved my mom, and he goes back in time, saves his mom from being killed by Zoom, or by the Reverse Flash. He's gone by both names. I don't even remember which one he was using at the time when he killed his mom. Anywho, he goes back in time, saves his mom, and creates this giant time burst that goes out and changes all of reality and creates this dark evil universe where everything is mixed up and all of his friends are different and everything about his life is different and he has to go back and figure out a way to fix it all. The very first Flash film that you are going to do is the one where he goes back in time and changes his history. What? I'm sorry, DC, this is not what you should do with the first Flash film. That is a second or third film. You need to establish his world in the cinematic universe before you go back and change his world. It doesn't mean anything to us if you go back and change everything that we're supposed to know about his world in this universe if all we have seen of his world in this universe is him hanging out with the Justice League. That doesn't mean anything. That would almost be like if the very first Captain America movie was this. It would almost be like if the first Spider-Man film was this. It would almost be like if the first Avengers movie was this. It doesn't mean anything if it relies on us knowing everything about this version of this character. It's just, I don't know, it's just kind of like fan service. It's just you sitting up there going, find out a popular Flash story. Well, there's a couple in here. What's this one that all the kids are talking about? Well, Flashpoint was really popular, but it doesn't quite do that one then. But it relies on so many. But listen, I don't care. People know the Flash. Just go in there and do Flashpoint. What? It involves everything changing about his reality. It involves all these other characters coming in here. Hey, Marvel just did that with Civil War, where they had all these characters from their other films come into their Captain America movie. Let's do that. I'm sure that I'm exaggerating a little bit. I'm sure that it wasn't some guy in the studio coming in here and going, well, it worked for Captain America, because it is kind of different. Sorta. Not really. But it is different in that it doesn't involve Flash going back in time and changing reality, but it's the same in that it relies on seeing the relationships between the characters in these other films and seeing that be interpreted in a solo character's film. So it does seem possible that they kind of just looked at Captain America and said, kind of do that. Except, as I said, that was the third Captain America movie, and it followed 2 Avengers films. This is going to be the first Flash film. It's going to be following 1 Justice League movie. Yeah, this seems like a massive mistake. This seems like the absolute wrong idea for the first Flash film. As I said, you want to do it for the 3rd film? Fine! That's after you've already established everything about his universe. So if you go back and change everything, it actually means something to us. But for the first one, this is nuts. However, I do have a bit of a conspiracy theory mind. As you guys can probably tell, I've come up with many theories about what these guys might be thinking behind the scenes. And as I said, I am not alone in thinking that Wonder Woman is the only good film in this universe, and that everything else about this cinematic universe doesn't leave me with any faith. And Flashpoint is a story where he went back in time and changed reality, but the way that that storyline ends is with him going back and stopping himself, but the universe still isn't the same when he comes back. When he comes back, it's what created the New 52 in the DC universe. It's what basically started this brand new continuity in the comics. I really think that this is DC going, alright, we're going to try with Wonder Woman 2 and Suicide Squad 2 and the Batman and Batgirl and Aquaman and Green Lantern Corps, we're going to try to go back and fix our mistakes with the previous films. However, there are so many problems that we have had with this universe. So many that can't really be ignored, such as our portrayal of Superman, our portrayal of Batman, two of the biggest cornerstones of this universe. Those aren't really things that we can go back and erase. The things that we have done to these characters, they exist. They're in this universe. So if we cannot figure out a way to fix this universe by the time we get to the Flash film, Flashpoint, erase continuity, start fresh. Wonder Woman, everybody loved, but she was set in World War I. We can have him go back in time and just erase everything after World War I and start fresh, brand new continuity. We come in here, create a whole new universe. And considering that Ben Affleck came out and said he's not quitting Batman for the time being, however, considering that Ben Affleck will be about 50 by the time that that Batman film actually comes out, and he has had numerous problems working with Warner Brothers on these films, it's very possible that he wants to get out of these films, and Warner Brothers is really looking at a way to replace him. So this could be killing two birds with one stone. You get to create a brand new continuity for your universe that gets rid of the mistakes of the previous films, and it gets you a brand new Batman. That's it. I don't know what I just did with my hands there. I was supposed to do this, but I just clapped and I started doing like patty cakes with my hands. That's a gif in the making. Yeah, so I really, again, I know it's total conspiracy nut of me, but I really do think that they said, listen, if we can fix everything before then, great. It'll be just a story about the Flash going back in time, hooray, whatever, and then he comes back and everything's the same. But if we can't fix everything in time, he goes back in time, comes back, the world is different. And I just gotta say, man, if you are going to go back in time so that you can get rid of Ben Affleck as Batman, get rid of Henry Cavill as Superman. Yes, he looks like the dude from the comics. That is it. You have to replace him as well. You can't get rid of the one guy we liked from Batman v Superman and keep the other guy we didn't, okay? You gotta get rid of both them, because also, Batman, yeah, he was murdering people left and right, he was super dark and jaded, and we have problems with that, but Henry Cavill's version of Superman, not even close. Batman, I can at least look at and go, well, you know, he's doing some Batman stuff in there. Henry Cavill ain't even close to the version of Superman that we want. If you're gonna replace Ben Affleck, you gotta replace Henry Cavill too. So okay, sorry for going off on that long tangent, but there is actually a lot to theorize about when it comes to the Flashpoint film being announced. However, let's go into another film that they did confirm is coming out, which is Shazam. Now, I have actually been looking forward to the Shazam film because I have criticized the DC Cinematic Universe for being too gray, for being too dull and flat and trying to be too dark and edgy with every single corner of their reality. That's one of the reasons I applaud Wonder Woman so much. It actually came in there and provided some color, some hope, some fun. So hooray! That's what DC needs to be looking into more. And they did say that the Shazam film would be a fun, all-ages adventure, which is great. That's what the Shazam film should be. I mean, it's about a little kid who, when he says a magic word, turns into the most powerful hero on Earth. It's Harry Potter, but replace wizards with superheroes. You can't make that dark and edgy. Even at the darkest and edgiest moments of Harry Potter, it was still fun and upbeat and about a bunch of kids going out there to save the day. That's what Shazam should be. So I've been looking forward to the Shazam film because I'm like, you know what, that could be the one. Wonder Woman started. Shazam could come in here and cement, we are doing some different stuff. We are doing some fun stuff. We are doing different tones. And they announced that this will indeed be the next film that they start making. And they announced the director for that film. And it's a horror director. Yes, the director of Shazam is going to be David F. Sandberg. And he is best known for directing Lights Out and the new Annabelle film. And that's pretty much it. He is brand new to the world of directing. And everything he has done so far is basically horror films. And all I could think was, why on earth is he doing Shazam, the film that's supposed to be the fun, upbeat kids film in your universe? That just seemed like such a weird choice. I can think of so many other directors that I would have gone to, but then again, who knows if they did go to those directors and they just said, I'm not doing anything with the DC Cinematic Universe. Is it Wonder Woman? I'll do the new Wonder Woman film. Oh, it's not that? I'm not doing anything in that universe. So, yeah, I'm very curious why they looked at Shazam and thought, let's get a guy who has only done horror films so far. However, I will come in here and say, the first two Spider-Man films, they actually were pretty fun. They were actually pretty upbeat, and they were directed by Sam Raimi, a guy who was best known for doing horror films. So, coming in here and putting a horror director on a film that's supposed to be a upbeat superhero film, it's not necessarily like a death nail. It's not necessarily coming in here and going, oh no, that means that they don't understand at all. It could just mean that this guy came to them and said, listen, I'm tired of doing horror. I want to do some fun stuff. I got some fun ideas in my head. Let me do something fun. For all we know, that's what happened. And maybe this guy does have a great grasp on Billy Batson, and maybe he does understand the character, and maybe he's going to do something great with it. I just like to hear him come out and say that. I like to hear him kind of like come out and be like, yeah, listen, I know what everybody's thinking, don't worry about it. Listen, I'm not going to, this is not going to be a horror film. I need to see those exact words. Because I remember when they took the last Fantastic Four film and said, yeah, we're going to turn it into a horror film. And we went, what on earth are you doing with that? I need to hear someone at DC say, Shazam will be a fun, upbeat kids film, not a horror film. But okay, I've got a couple more stories relating to the DC Cinematic Extended Universe, but before we get into those, I'm going to take a quick detour and talk about some of the animated films that they announced. Now, DC's animated films used to be amazing. Then they got kind of crappy for a few years, and now they're actually becoming good again. I actually really enjoyed their last two ones, so hey man, I'm actually looking forward to what they have planned. And they announced their next 4 films, and it's going to be Gotham by Gaslight, a Suicide Squad film, and a 2-part Death of Superman story. Now, starting with Gotham by Gaslight, I'll admit, one of my complaints that I have had with their animated films is they just find a way to cram Batman into everything. I'm kind of sick of Batman being in almost all of their animated films. So anytime that they announce anything new Batman related in their animated universe, I'm just like, oh man, come on. However, this is the only one out of those 4 films they announced. That's the only one, so I was like, okay, that's not bad, that's not bad. I can dig with that. And also, it's not main Batman. It is an alternate reality Batman, and it's one of his more famous alternate realities, and I actually think that's incredibly cool. That's one of the things that I love about the animated films. They are willing to experiment. This is not some big multi-million-dollar film that they have to get actors and sets and locations. It's an animated film, so they can be a lot more creative with it. They have a lot more freedom with it. So I love to see them experiment by doing some of these alternate reality stories. In fact, to me, it kind of makes their animated films a little bit more for the comic book fans. It's like, yeah, listen, we don't have to win over the mass audiences with this thing. We can go for the niche audiences on this. We can go for the people who just already know the comics. We can make our money back just from that. And doing something like Gotham by Gaslight, that kind of says that that's what they're doing, so hey, I totally applaud that. So I can't wait to see that. Suicide Squad, listen, it only makes sense that they would do a Suicide Squad animated film, and I'm actually intrigued to see what they do. I just really hope that the cast of it is not just going to be the exact cast from the movies. I hope that they actually experiment with it a little bit more. They already did one Suicide Squad film that was set in the Arkham video game universe, or at least closely based to the Arkham video game universe, even if it wasn't set actually in there. And I dug it. I thought it had a couple problems here or there, but I actually thought it was pretty darn fun, and I enjoyed that they were willing to get so creative with the cast that they used in that film. So I hope they kind of do the same thing again, where they're not just ripping off all the characters from the movie. They actually are coming in here and they're going to put a bunch of different characters in here, because if you just use the characters from the movies, it's called Suicide Squad. Someone has to die in this movie. You're not going to kill anybody off if you just use the characters from the movie. So I hope that they actually get some characters from the comics that we've never seen in the actual films before. And the last film is Death of Superman, which is going to be a two-parter. And I was really kind of like, I don't care when I heard that, because we have already gotten a Death of Superman animated film. However, they said this one is going to be very, very close to the comics. Which makes me think, oh my god, does that mean that we're going to get Cyborg Superman, Superboy, Steel, and the Eradicator? Because that's something we've never seen in the animated universe. If the first film is just him fighting Doomsday, listen, there actually was not a whole lot in the story of Death of Superman. Everybody talks about like it's one of the greatest stories ever told. It was really just Superman punching Doomsday a whole lot over the course of several issues. But, you know, there is different stuff that you can do with that. You can add new stuff to that story to stretch it out to be feature-length. And also, I would really dig seeing that wacky Justice League that popped up in there. Yeah, the Justice League that was in that story was not the one that you guys know. So I'd actually kind of dig if they were like, yeah, let's get Booster Gold and Blue Beetle in this thing. So I would actually look forward to seeing what they could do with that. But then, in part 2, that's got to be the rise of Superman. It's got to be all those other crazy alternate Superman popping up. There's actually a really cool story you could tell there, and a story that's never been told. So you know what? I am still kind of like iffy to part 1 of this, because I have kind of seen it before. I've never seen what's going to be in part 2 before, so I'm actually really excited for that. But okay, let's go ahead and get into the big final piece of news that came out about the DC Cinematic Extended Universe. Man, I'm getting really tired of having to say that phrase over and over and over again. The DC movies. That's all I'm going to say from here on out. Let's get to the big final piece of news that came out about the DC movies, which is that they revealed the final trailer for Justice League. Now, I did not make a trailer reaction for the first trailer. I made one to the teaser trailer that came out at last year's Comic-Con, but when the first official trailer came out, I did not make a reaction video to it. Partly because, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm just trying to phase out the reaction videos because they just don't last long here on the channel. They're good for a short burst, but then after that, like, nobody really cares. Like, after the movie comes out, no one wants to hear about your reaction to the very first trailer that came out. But the other reason is because I'm trying to be more positive here on the channel. Not that you will have noticed it from the majority of this video, but I am trying to be more positive here on the channel, and I hated that first trailer. I looked at that and went, what on earth are you doing? Not because I looked at this and went, oh, well, you know, it's just all the same stuff that I didn't like from the previous films. It's because I looked at this and went, I don't even know what's in this movie. Like, I had several problems with it, and part of it was just like, oh, you cannot make out the paradigms. And it's not like they're trying to hide them in the shadows, aside from in the very beginning when they are hiding in the shadows. I get that. I'm not judging that. But I'm talking about when you actually see heroes jumping at them and going into battle with them. They're just a black silhouette, even when they're on full display there in the frame. It's like things got even darker in here. Like, we all criticize Batman vs. Superman and Man of Steel for the cinematography just being so dark, and it looks like they're just doubling down on it in this one. And it's not that I'm criticizing the cinematography for not matching the tone, although that is a thing, but the cinematography, just when you get it even darker, you can no longer even tell what's happening on screen, because you would have them jumping at total solid silhouette monsters against a total solid black mountain. I was like, I'm just looking at Wonder Woman jump, I'm just looking at Aquaman jump. That's it. That's the only thing that's in focus here. The rest of it is nothing. The rest of it feels non-existent. And that was my biggest problem with that first trailer. It's that the CGI looked terrible, and I don't mean on the parademons, because as I said, you can't really tell what the parademons are in that first trailer. I mean on the surroundings. That was the biggest problem with that first trailer, is that all the backgrounds just looked like awful CGI, meaning none of it felt real. None of it felt like there was life there. None of it looked like a place where anyone would ever live. It just looked like generic city background number 5 in your After Effects program. this did not look like a place where the heroes had to defend. Like, it looks like if you blew up this entire area, I wouldn't give a crap. I wouldn't care at all if you destroyed the entire city in those first trailers. Because aside from Batman riding with Aquaman in the car with him, I can't tell that anyone lives there. I can't tell that life exists in this plane. It just looks like a big CGI background. And if you don't have any humanity to your world, I don't care if that world survives. That was my biggest problem with that first trailer. Wow, did this trailer fix that? Not completely, I still have some problems, but compared to the first trailer, this one actually feels alive. It feels like people are here. Like, in that first trailer, the only time in which the sun actually really shone on anybody was when Wonder Woman was attacking some soldiers, and we couldn't really tell where she was. And here, you get context. You get where she is. You get that she's in a museum, and you see other people in that museum, and it doesn't look like, even though the soldiers are attacking, yeah, they kill one guy, but it's not like too grim and dark. It just lets us know that these guys are a threat. We still see Wonder Woman showing up and saving the day and being a total badass, so it's like, it starts you off right away with, hooray, this is a movie about heroes. And yeah, the lighting in there is still kind of flat, but then it goes to her talking to her co-workers, and everything in that shot is bright and poppy and full of life. And that's the thing, all throughout this, there are several moments where they're sitting down and they're talking with each other, and they're in an area where the colors are just so much more bright and vibrant. It feels so much more alive, and that's what you needed. In a Justice League movie, you need the world to feel alive. You need to feel like these heroes are actually living in a place where other people would live, so that way it's important for them to protect it. And I know someone is going to come in here and go, well, in that first trailer, we saw other people aside from the Justice League in there. Yes, there are moments in there, like when Aquaman goes into the bar, but again, that bar, no one is really even moving. They're all just kind of standing there, and everything is just so bland and gray that I look at it, it's like, that's not a place. I've been to dingy dark bars like that. There's at least a light flickering. There's at least some color in there. This looks so just flat and single colored. That's like, that's not real. Those people are cardboard cutouts. They don't feel like there's any reason for them to be there. They feel like they're as CGI as the Parademons. Here, whenever you see other people, aside from the Justice League in this trailer, yeah, they feel like people. They feel like people actually standing there. I actually now feel something about this world. And yes, there are plenty of other moments and plenty of other shots where it is like, okay, it's still kind of monotone, and also, yeah, a lot of the CGI backgrounds, they are just kind of there. They don't really feel like people are living in some of these buildings. However, they're at least doing some cool stuff with these buildings. When Aquaman goes diving down through the building, stabbing a trident into a monster, it's like, okay, I know what he's doing here. Alright, that's actually a cool thing. If you are going to have this background in there that feels like no one's there, at least do something with it. And you did something with it in this one. And as I said, there are other shots in this trailer that does make this world feel alive, so you can now give me some shots where it doesn't feel alive, and it balances itself out. I can still take the feelings I have about this world from the previous shots in this trailer, carry it on into this shot. Alright, fine, cool, whatever, I'm down. And like I said, in that first one, you couldn't make out what the parademons were, and in this one, you can't really tell how Steppenwolf looks, but you're not supposed to in this one. In that last one, the parademons are front and center in some of those shots, and so it's like, yeah, it's just a black blob. In this one, Steppenwolf, they are purposely trying to hide, so fine. It's totally okay if you can't totally make out what he looks like. Plus, they want to put the other characters on focus, and the character they're putting on focus the most is Wonder Woman. It's smart. This movie might as well just be called Wonder Woman and Friends based on this trailer. And hey man, yeah, she's the one with the good movie right now. She's the one with the highest grossing movie. She's the one that most people are excited to see further adventures of. It was a smart idea for them to start this thing off by just making it look like Wonder Woman 2. By making it go, here she is, here's her as a hero, here's her in her day life, here's the island she came from, here's her mom and all of her other family members. This is the Wonder Woman movie. Oh, and then the Justice League comes in here. It's like, yeah man, that's the one movie that like fills us with hope. So if you want to come in here and kind of establish we want this movie to have a different tone from Batman v Superman and have more of a tone like Wonder Woman, putting a lot more Wonder Woman in here was a smart choice. And something that people have criticized the DC films for is not having enough heart and not having enough humor to it. And we saw some jokes in the previous trailer, but they clashed so much with that bland tone of the world that they were establishing that it just felt off-putting. In this one, the world, a little bit brighter. We actually see people in here, and the people don't feel like cardboard cutouts in the background. They actually feel like people in this world. So now when I see humor in this trailer, those jokes actually kind of work. And you know what? There's actually some pretty damn good jokes in this one. Like that joke where Gordon turns around and everyone's gone except the Flash, and even the Flash doesn't notice. That is an amazing joke. Although I kind of wish he had turned around and the entire league was still there, except for Batman. So you got to see all of them like, what? Did he just leave? And then Gordon's like, yeah, he does that. Just, I would have kind of enjoyed if that was the joke a little bit more, but the joke they have in here, really darn good. Really solid. I really liked it. That was a great joke to go out on. Although they didn't actually go out on that, they went out on Superman returning and Alfred seeing him return. It's obviously that. A lot of people are going to say, well, how do you know that's what it was? It's obvious that's what it was. It's already kind of been spoiled that Superman is coming back in this film. And we see Alfred kind of recognizing that Superman coming, but he knows he's coming because he sees the little Jurassic Park like water droplets in the cup going off. And all I could think was, how great would it be if it was not Superman, but it was that giant T-Rex that Batman keeps in the Batcave. For anybody who's a big Batman fan, you know he's got a giant robot dinosaur in his Batcave. If they're going to use the T-Rex effect from Jurassic Park, it would just crack me up if the camera then just turned around and you just saw Alfred talking to the giant robot T-Rex. I don't know why, but that would make me laugh so much. And even though I didn't like that first trailer, I did come out and say, listen, it is really clear Aquaman is going to be the fan favorite character. And I've got some Aquaman fans who contacted me after that first trailer came out and said that they did not like Jason Momoa as Aquaman because he did not match the character from the comics at all. Yeah, I gotta be honest with you guys. If you are an Aquaman fan and you love Aquaman from the comics, Jason Momoa's Aquaman looks like it is in no way going to be like the character from the comics aside from his origin story and his powers. Because Aquaman from the comics is very like stiff upper lip, just yes, I am the king of Atlantis, that kind of character. This Jason Momoa's Aquaman, it's Drax the Destroyer under the water. Like, it is so clear that they just looked at Drax and was like, people like that, get him to be like that. Like, he even looks a little bit more like hillbilly than Drax the Destroyer. Like, when he is like riding down on that parademon and just like, woo, yeah! Like, he might as well just have a trucker's hat on when he walks out there. However, even though I apologize to all the Aquaman fans out there and say, yes, this is not the character you love from the comics, it looks like it's going to be a fun-ass character. It looks like that guy is going to be the star of this film. It looks like everyone is going to walk away loving that character from this movie. It looks like he's going to be the breakout hit, which will probably speak very highly for the success of his upcoming solo film that will be coming out after that. So, hey man, I'm totally fine with it. I know I should be standing by the comic book fans and going, well, it's not the thing that you guys like, so I'm going to be by your side. But yeah, man, it's a smart choice for them to do this. It's a smart choice to try and make him the big lovable goofball in this. Because A, it's Jason Momoa and he can pull that off. He can pull off being a badass and kind of a goofball at the same time. But it will also get people really excited and will establish a totally different tone for their universe and this character. And he's going to be the character that comes out after Justice League. So establishing that more fun tone will keep that tone going throughout the DC films, which is what they need to be trying to accomplish at this point. It's the smart decision overall. Hey, just think of it this way. Think of it as being the Aquaman from the Batman Brave and the Bold cartoon. Think of it like that. Just have him come in here at some point and say, outrageous! There you go. That's the Aquaman you guys like too, right? I'm trying to make you Aquaman fans happy here, man. I don't know, but I'm excited for it. I'm excited. So that's it. Those are all my thoughts about all the news about the DC movies that were announced. As I said, in part 2, we're going to be talking about all the news about the Marvel films, and then we're going to be talking about all the comic book related news in part 3. So if you want to see any of those episodes, then make sure that you come back. Also, let me know your thoughts on any of the DC news that came out in the comments down below, or by contacting me on Twitter and Tumblr and Twitch at Professor Thorgy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'm out of breath, so I'm going to take a quick break, and then I will be back later with the Marvel news. Come back then. Bye.